Hi friends, my name is Kayla Rain, and today I am doing my monthly recommendations for the month of February, and the theme this month is Not Another Romance. So monthly recommendations is a Goodreads group that gives a monthly topic for book recommendations for either your blog or your YouTube channel, and you can do whatever you want with it and just kind of follow the topic and make recommendations. I'll leave all links in the down bar below, as well as a link to my friend Trina's channel because she's co-creator of the group along with me, and she's awesome. You should check her out. So this month's theme is Not Another Romance, and I was pretty excited about it. I knew that it was going to be a very challenging topic for me because I read a lot of books that have romance in them, and that is something that I was kind of nervous about doing. But Trina was so wonderful about explaining it, as you've seen in the Goodreads group, and she gave great examples. I'm very, very excited to show you my picks. I did decide to interpret this in a specific way that I wanted to focus on self-discovery stories. So stories where the main character really goes through the process of discovering who they are as a person. And I think only one of these has a very light romance in it, but it's not really a romance. It's just like a romantic interest that doesn't really play through quite like a romance. I don't want to say too much because spoilers, but I'll just leave it at that. So the first book that I have to recommend is The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Carson, and this might seem like a very offbeat choice, but this particular book had such great character development in it for the main character. This is a fantasy book. It's the first book in a trilogy, and it is just this really fantastic, very Hispanic influenced world, and the main character, Elisa, starts off, the book opens up on her wedding day. So I know that seems very, like, it doesn't really go with the topic because it's opening on her wedding day, but hear me out. This is a political marriage, and this book really follows Elisa trying to find out who she is as a person outside of her marriage and the other things that have been assigned to her, and she's just trying to create her own label for herself and kind of figure out who she is and what she wants to do in the world. And this book was just so beautifully written, and just how empowering it was to see Elisa come into her own over the course of the book was just really incredible. So this is definitely the book that I want to recommend first because it has a very, very low-key romance that is just almost non-existent. So if you're still kind of hesitant to pick up a book with absolutely no romance, this is a good place to start because it kind of like just eases you in. The next book that I have to recommend is A Monster Calls by Ness. This is not going to ease you in at all. This book does not have any romance in it. It's a very hard-hitting book. It follows a young boy who is coping with the impending death of his mother. He knows that she's sick and that she might not get well, and he's still clinging to some hope that she will. And a monster comes each night to tell him a story to kind of help him with his coping with this situation. And this book was really beautifully written, and just the way that the main character kind of just unfolds his grief and works through it was very touching and very relatable for times that I've dealt with grief. And I think that this is one of those books that was just perfect, and a book that everyone should read. I do have to give a heads up though that you will need a big box of tissues to read this book. It is heartbreaking, but it's done in such a beautiful manner and such a touching way that it feels good to work through those feelings and kind of get through the tough stuff that happens in this book. So this is about as far from romance as you can get. The next book that I have to recommend is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. This is a nonfiction book, and it follows the main character, well, not a main character, she's a real life human because it's a nonfiction. It follows Cheryl Strayed as she hikes the Pacific Crest Trail, and there are some romantic storylines in this book, but it's past storylines, and this book mainly focuses on Cheryl in the present and how she's kind of coping through some difficult things that have happened in her life. She's just had a lot going on. Her mother passed away. She has recently ended her marriage and gotten divorced. She has been addicted to drugs in the past and is in the process of recovery from using drugs in the past, and there's just a lot going on in Cheryl Strayed's life, and she chooses her therapeutic recovery method to be hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. And this book was just really wonderful to read and kind of see her journey and how she's developing on the way and just kind of dealing with a lot of things that pop up from the past. and this is probably one of my favorite self-discovery stories, non-fiction wise, of course. The next book that I have to recommend is another tearjerker, so I apologize for that. I'm not trying to make you cry just because there's no romance in these books, but it is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, and this is a historical fiction that follows the main character Liesel, who is put into a foster home because of all of the turmoil going on with the war. Her biological mother has to put her in foster home, and she's under the care of a German couple during the Nazi occupation of Germany and World War II and all that other stuff. And this book just follows her and kind of how she lived during that time. And it's a very slow burn book, and it is just very character driven, and it follows her and the different things that she encounters with the war and kind of the hardships that she faced and how she worked through them, and then some of the more triumphant moments of her life. And this book was just really, really gorgeous, and I love the character development with the main character. It was just done so beautifully, and you will probably cry with this book too. It is also narrated by Death, so that is just an extra sad note to this novel. And my last recommendation is going to be Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. I have this loaned out to a friend right now, so I'll have to insert a graphic, but this was just a really fun graphic novel that had some really touching moments in it. But it is a fantasy graphic novel that follows the main character Nimona, who wants to be an apprentice of a villain and kind of learn how to be a villain. And this book was so fun, and I just loved watching Nimona kind of learn to be a good villain. And just kind of learn the rules of that particular world and kind of unfold the storyline, and you get to see a little bit from Nimona's past. And I'm really hoping for another installment of this graphic novel because I want to know what happens. I just really love Nimona's story, and if you're looking for a really great graphic novel that doesn't have a heavy romance in it, I highly recommend that one because it is fantastic. Okay, that has been it for my monthly recommendations video. This one was a little bit shorter because I didn't have that many books that I really wanted to talk about, and some of the ones that I felt like would be appropriate for this topic I had to kind of hold back because they are also appropriate for next month's topic, which is standalone, so join in then, and I didn't want to have them back to back. So this video was a little bit shorter than usual, but still love this topic. And if you have done a video, go ahead and link that in the comment section below. I'd love to watch it. I love watching those recommendation videos. My TBR shelf doesn't love it, but I'm okay with it because I always want to have stuff to read. I never want my TBR pile to be 0 because that means I'm done with reading. I want it to be many books on it. As always, I will link all of the information in the down bar below for the Goodreads group, as well as all the places that you can follow me. If you want to see a little bit more of me than just on my videos, you can do that. I will provide the information down there for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay weird.